Hello, we want to welcome you to this morning's webinar on arriving in the U.S. We're so pleased so many of you could join us today. My name is Leah Zimmer. I'm the director of the International Student and Scholar Affairs Office within Notre Dame International, and I'm here with two of my colleagues from the International Student and Scholar Affairs Office, where the three of us are going to talk about getting to the U.S., arriving at the port of entry, what documents you have, and kind of what to expect in those first few days on campus. I will have them introduce themselves right before they begin presenting, but we're just really delighted to be here with you. We are recording this, and so we'll be sure to have it up on our website in the next couple of days so that you can continue to access if you have follow-up questions or if you want to share it with your parents and let them know what's going on. We do have a Q&A function. So if you have any questions, please go ahead and enter those in the Q&A box that's available. And we'll be sure to answer them at some point. Maybe we'll wait till the end or somebody will answer in the Q&A box. So a real pleasure to be here with you as you prepare to come and join our nearly 1,500 students on campus from more than 100 countries. And you are going to be doing a really rich community as you arrive in the next month. And so we always want to remind you, there's so many people that will become your people and your community once you arrive on campus. And in particular, we really have a lot of joy in our international student community and how that community is connected and learning with each other. And you're bringing so many new perspectives to our community as you start your journey at the University of Notre Dame. So a lot of students are waiting for you, anticipating you, and I hope you've met many of them in different meeting chats and different welcome sessions as you prepare. So there are really three questions we want to help you answer by the end of this presentation. One is what do you need to know about the documents, both that we've sent you and what are the different relationships with your visa, with your I-20, what do you need to understand about those? Because those documents are going to be essential for you for your next 4 or 5 years. If you're an exchange student for the next 6 months, the next year, it's really important that you understand the documents that are directing your status as a visa holder in the US. So we'll talk about that. We want to talk a little bit about the US port of entry. And we know many of you have probably traveled to the US before and are familiar with coming in and out as maybe a tourist to the US, but we want to make sure that you understand what does it mean to come in as a visa holder to study in the US. And that might be a little bit of a different experience. So we want to give you some tips on that. And then lastly, we want to talk a little bit about your getting to campus, which has been a little bit complicated because the global health crisis continues to build, but there are some options that we want to talk about. And then also your first few days on campus, what to expect once you arrive in those days. So again, the Q&A is in the bottom of your screen. Please feel free to enter questions there. We may answer it in the course of our conversation today, but otherwise one of us will answer it there in the Q&A. So I'm going to hand it over to my colleague, Merritt Matthew, to talk about understanding your documents.
All right, so each of you was either issued a Form I-20 or a DS 2019, and you just want to ensure with these documents that all of the biographical information on those documents is correct, your name, make sure it's spelled right, date of birth. You'll also want to pay attention to your program of study, make sure that information is correct, and if it changes at any time, please let us know so that we can update that document. The same goes for the financial information listed on those documents. Make sure that's up to date. If your fellowship changes or your funding source changes, we just want to make sure to update those documents. You'll also want to pay attention to your program start and end dates. Those can change, and we just want to make sure that we keep this document as up to date as possible. And then you were also at your visa interview issued a visa. You always want to make sure that when you do come to the US, that you are entering in the status of F1 or J1 every time. Some of you may have a tourist visa. But just make sure that you are entering in the F1 or J1 status. Sometimes it can be a little confusing for students. Your visa can expire while you are in the US as long as you have a valid Form I-20 or DS 2019. So you will only need to renew that visa when you are planning to travel outside the US so that you can re-enter. And also keep in mind that you can only apply for a new visa outside of the US. You are unable to apply for that visa or renew a visa while you're inside the US. So while you're here studying at Notre Dame, you want to make sure that you're maintaining your status. And maintaining your status is determined by your Form I-20 or DS 2019, the visa stamp that is in your visa booklet, the admission stamp, your I-94 record, as well as your SEVIS record. If for any reason you fail to maintain your status or you violate your status, you will be unable to work in the US. You could be subject to removal at any time, and there could be some difficulties that you could run into if you plan to return to the US in the future under a different visa type or permanent residency.
And Merritt, I'll just add here that we will talk at our orientation check-in and at orientation about what it means to maintain status. What are the different activities you can and cannot do? What are your responsibilities that you need to do to maintain your status? So this is really just focusing on the documents that are establishing your status in the US. I know that we have a number of US citizens who have been studying abroad or on their own, but are actually US citizens. And so this portion of the conversation will be less applicable to you because you will just be entering with your US passport. You will not have a visa status to manage. For our students who are entering with a visa status, these are the documents, these are the records that are establishing your status. But we'll talk more about those activities that support you in maintaining your status once you arrive on campus and are checking in on August 18th.
All right, so lastly, when it comes to your immigration documents, you want to make sure that you keep track of your documents, keep them in a safe place, and make sure that you review them to make sure all the information is correct whenever you plan to exit the US. Ensure that you have a travel endorsement on those, and also review them at the beginning of each semester. Some students may change their major, so we want to make sure that it's up to date. And then always carry those documents with you when you plan to travel.
Okay, so I'm going to transition to my colleague Cynthia Reeves to talk about arriving at the U.S. port of entry.
Good morning, afternoon, evening to everyone. My name is Cynthia Reeves. I'm one of the assistant directors within the ISSA office. So my name will be on most of your documents if you're a graduate student. So welcome to the university. So right now we're going to talk about arriving at the port of entry. So this is where we're just going to review the documents that you're going to carry with you on the plane. Make sure you're not putting these in your checked luggage. And then, excuse me, just make sure you don't your checked luggage. So the documents that you need to make sure that you have with you on the plane would be your passport and visa, your Form I-20 or DS 2019, depending if you are an F or J student, proof that you paid the SEVIS fee, which will be the SEVIS receipt, your Notre Dame admissions letter, and then your supporting financial documents. One of the questions we get asked about the supporting financial documents, if you are receiving any type of stipend or fellowship or any type of funds from the university, that information will be found in the Notre Dame admissions letter. So you can just have that letter to show your financial documentation. But if you are getting sponsorship from an outside organization or a family is financing some of your while you're here, you want to make sure you have that same information that you presented with your admissions packet with you to show that you have the financial documentation for your studies. We're also going to discuss secondary inspection and customs.
So go ahead and discuss that here, Cynthia.
Okay, let's switch slide. So once you get through secondary, or once you get to the airport, it's possible for you to be pulled into secondary inspection. So basically what that means is once they review your documents, they may need to do additional review and pull you into a second room, which they call secondary. Now, just because you're pulled into secondary inspection, that does not mean that anything is wrong with you or with any of your paperwork. Sometimes this is just done at random. It could be that you have a name similar to someone who was flagged for something else, and they just need to verify that your documents are okay. But more likely, this is just done at random. So it may not have anything at all to do with you. I will say, I know that being pulled into secondary can be intimidating and may cause anxiety, but just know that there's cause for alarm. Just remain calm and confident that everything's going to be okay. Also, something that you want to be aware of is if you're pulled into secondary, this can take up to a couple of hours. But just know it always result in you being admitted. One thing I also want to point out is if you are traveling with other individuals, say you're bringing your family with you or you met a group of friends or whatever, if you are pulled into secondary, they will take you along. They won't let everyone that came with you along in secondary with you. So the rest of your group will have to just keep going, and then if you're on the other side, but it will be just you alone room.
And so sometimes we'll recommend that you, once your plane is landed, that you text somebody or WeChat or WhatsApp somebody, and then text or chat with them again once you've gone through this inspection process before you exit customs. So just a word of advice, if you've got cell access or if you're able to access WeChat or WhatsApp to contact someone, it's just hey, I made it, I landed. Once you get through inspection, I'm through inspection.
Yes, and I'm finished and ready to keep going. Okay, so once you through the US, you may receive an admission stamp. I will say, I know for certain that if you enter through Miami or Dallas, you will not receive this stamp. This is just the admission stamp that's the US. Once you receive this stamp in your passport, what you're going to look at is the what they physically write on the stamp. So if you are here on an F1 visa, it should say F1 with DS underneath, or if you entered in a J, it should say J1 or J2 if you have dependents with DS at the bottom. This just lets us know what status they enter you in. So it should be the F or J, and DS means duration of status. So this just means for the entire length of your program that's listed on your I-20 or DS 2019. If there is ever a date at the bottom of this where it says DS, which we do not want, that indicates a day that you need to be out of the US. So we always want to make sure it says F1J1/DS. Something we recommend is if you have more than one visa in your passport, you open it up to the F1 or J1 visa and hand it directly to the officer. Because for the entire length of your program, you should only enter and exit in your F or J status. You should not enter or exit in your tourist or ESTA visa. What will happen is if they enter you in the incorrect status, we can try to update it. But if not, you would have to exit the US and re-enter to make sure it's in the correct with your student status. The I-94 record that you see here, this is just the electronic version of the stamp that they put in your passport. And this is really important for the individuals who enter through Miami or Dallas, where they don't physically put the stamp in your passport, you can see to review. So this is basically going to have the exact same information. It'll have, the date that you entered the admission class, whether it be F or J, and you'll see that DS here again as well, which means the duration of status. So you'll get this record each time that you re-enter the US. So it can take up to 48 hours to find this record online electronically. So once you return from a trip, I would recommend that you just get a screenshot or a copy of this and have it for your records. One thing I will point out, sometimes you may have a little issue finding the record if you have more than one last name or more than one name. Sometimes they can flip your name, so sometimes you just have to play with your name to flip it around to find that record. If you do have difficulties at any time finding that record, we can try to help you find this. If not, we can point you in the right direction to get a copy of this I-94 record. Something we want to point out to you for travel notes arriving. One of the most important things to note is that the earliest you can arrive in the US is 30 days before the start of your program. So 30 days before your program, you're more than welcome to enter the US. It's a status. So if you need to come in, move into your apartment, get settled, you can do that 30 days before your program start date. If you arrive later than the start date on your I-20 or DS 2019, you want to make sure you are contacting our office to make us aware of that, because we may need to update your documents to ensure you have any issues when you do to arrive to the United States. The latest date that you are able to arrive on campus is August 30th, which is 6 days program start date, which is University for roll call. So to participate on campus, you must be on campus by August 30th, after August 30th.
And Cynthia, can I just interrupt really quickly? If you
Yes.
have any trouble with your travel and that date looks problematic, you want to reach out to our office by emailing us at issa@nd.edu. Also reach out to your first year advisor in the first year advising office and admissions. And one thing you'll see is there's lots of different offices, but it's important for us to be aware of any challenges you're having to get here by that date to confirm what other options. And our office can do some things with your immigration record. First year advising can do some things with your academic record, and admissions can provide other options if you aren't able to get here. So it is important that if there's any problem with you getting here by that August 30th date, that last possible date, that you let each of those offices know. Check in with us because we'll need to have a couple of different conversations. So thanks, Cynthia.
Yes, as soon as possible, as soon as you realize that, let us know that, please. All right, next we'll talk about testing and vaccination. So you want to make sure that you communicate with your airline to confirm testing or the procedures that's needed. If you need any information about vaccines before arriving or once you get here, you have a question about the vaccine that you have. A lot of times those questions will come to us, but you'll want to forward those questions to its UHS or University Health Services. So you would just email them at the immunizations@nd.edu. Slide, please. Oh, next, getting to campus. So after you have made it to the US airport, so now we're going to talk about you can get to campus. So this slide here is just showing you the time, the cost, and options for you to get from your airport to campus. So if you can see this, so like the $3 signs or the $2 sign, that's showing you how expensive something is. So the options that you see here, these are some of the most common options that people will use, renting a car, taking an Uber or Lyft, the train or whatever. So you'll see the convenience of how easy it is, how difficult, the time it's going to take, and some additional notes. You will have access to this. So if you want to review it further, there's links that on prices and
I'll just add too that we did send out an email last week about some additional shuttles happening on August 18th that will get you from Chicago O'Hare to campus. And so sign up for that if you can. We also have been asking you to report your travel plans. So if you have your ticket and you can let us know when you're arriving, we are trying to decide whether there are enough students traveling on Tuesday, August 17th, and late on August 18th, that we can schedule another bus that would come directly from O'Hare to campus. So please be sure to report your travel plans once you have them. If you do not have your travel plans yet, go ahead and report that and just say, I don't have it yet. I'm still waiting on my visa. I don't have a ticket. That will really help us figure out how to best support you as you're preparing to come to campus. But that travel plans, we are looking to provide a couple of additional shuttles to get folks to campus. You cannot move into your residence hall until the morning of August 18th, but we can at least help you get to the area so that you're ready to do that. So keep an eye out for those emails as we release new shuttle opportunities. We'll send out an email and a sign up for you to access.
continue with preparing to arrive on campus. You want to make sure that you are reading all the emails sent to you to your Notre Dame email. So you'll get a lot of emails from us, but there's multiple departments on campus that you're going to be receiving emails from that you want to make sure that you are reading and paying attention to. Here we just list a few of those departments. If you're undergraduate, so like Res Life or first year revising, dining service, student accounts, UHS is University Health Services. They may be communicating with you with the vaccines or immunization requirements. So any documents or information or email that's coming to your Notre Dame email account from the @Indeed, you want to make sure that you are paying attention to. As Leah and I just mentioned, you want to communicate if you're going to be delayed, especially with your hall staff and rector, because they have a list of students who they are expecting, and they're going to be looking for you. We don't want them waiting for you if you're going to be delayed. So just reach out and let them know if that was for you. And then on Wednesday, we're going to make sure that you're going to meet us, and we're going to welcome everyone and be glad to see everyone once they arrive at the ECK Visitor Center. And that's where orientation begin to start.
Okay. Thank you, Cynthia. So what to expect in those first couple of days. Last week, we sent out a schedule that is just sort of broad strokes about what you will be doing across Wednesday, August 18th and August 19th. We have learned in the many, many years that we have been doing orientation that it's really helpful for our international students to have a slow start on campus, to get checked in, to get moved in, to get comfortable. And so Wednesday, August 18th is orientation check-in. It's when you're going to move into your residence halls. Again, you cannot move in prior to August 18th between 10 and 2. You should have already gotten some notification from Res Life, but I know there was some confusion on the Home Under the Dome portal about whether you could indicate August 18th or August 20th as your move-in. But if you have been getting emails from us about move-in and international student orientation, then you are on the list to move in on the morning of August 18th. For students whose flights will arrive later, you will still be able to move in. But this is the 10 to 2 is that main time period when we want to get you into your residence hall if you're already on campus. We will have international ambassadors to help you move if you get in later, and you can come by the ECK Visitor Center and we'll help get you to where you need to be. If you're coming really late in the middle of the night, then we'll be in communication with you based on your responses on the report travel plan form. If you need some short-term housing because you think you will be in South Bend, Notre Dame area on August 17th or earlier, there's a ton of hotels that you can reserve a room at, but also the Sacred Heart Parish Center on campus is a place, it's very low key, but it's a place that you could get a room very inexpensive to wait out until Wednesday, August 18th. So at check-in, you'll get your name tag, you'll get your welcome packet, you'll get your tickets for orientation on Thursday. Each student is allowed to bring 2 guests to orientation, and we'll be over in the DeBartolo Performing Arts Center for that orientation on Thursday, but you will need a ticket, so you'll pick that up on Wednesday. We'll have some different campus tours. International ambassadors will be there walking students around, maybe to help you get your ID card. If you have questions about student accounts, you're just like, where do I go for whatever it is that you're looking for? We will have a team of people there to help you get settled on Wednesday, August 18th. We'll also have a shuttle. And so I know many students, because of the travel restrictions, will have to travel alone, which can be a little bit nerve-wracking and worrisome, but we'll have a shuttle to get you to Target, which is a local store that sells sheets and towels and blankets and lights and all sorts of things that you will need to make your residence hall room comfortable. So that will happen on Wednesday, August 18th. We'll also have an opportunity for those of you who are coming to study with a visa to attend our Maintaining Status session. And this is actually a requirement for those of you who are studying with an F or a J visa. We will go over some additional responsibilities you have with that visa type, and we will complete the F1 or J1 registration process. Again, a mandatory meeting for those of you who are studying with an F or J visa. If you will not arrive on Wednesday in time for orientation check-in, we will have a makeup session or another session on Thursday, August 19th, that afternoon. For those of you who are really maybe even struggling to get here in time for orientation because of the consular processing limitations or because of travel restrictions, we will be having virtual makeup sessions the first week of classes and the second week of classes. And again, that's where that report your travel plans form is really helpful for us to figure out how to best support you and your attempts to get to campus. So the fourth thing that we'll have on Wednesday, August 18th, are just dinners with our international ambassadors. So when you get to campus and you're going to Target, you're getting your room settled, you're getting your ID card, you're doing all these different things and picking up your tickets, meeting new students right away. There's an opportunity for you to go out to dinner with some of our international ambassadors and other new students on Wednesday night. Very informal. One dinner may be in the dining hall and one will be at Eddy Street Commons, which is just south of campus. So Wednesday is an opportunity for you just to come, get settled, get your bearings. Many of you have not been to campus yet, ever. And so this will be a really exciting time for you to explore in person. And there will be a lot of people to help you answer questions and get you around campus. On Thursday, August 19th, is when we will have the official orientation programming that includes the welcome, that includes your student groups and conversations with international ambassadors. And this is where students love to connect with other students, make some of their best friends that they'll have while they're at the university, is in these IA groups, the first group of students that you're really connecting with. Hopefully some of you jumped on the Zoom call with your IAs or have responded to your IA email to say hi. That's your first touch. But when you get to campus, there's just some really great opportunities to meet new students and have this shared experience of coming to campus, maybe without your parents, maybe for the first time in the US, maybe for the first time on campus. You'll have a lot of opportunities to connect with other students in that same situation. We'll provide lunch on Thursday, and then we will also be hosting a resource fair and different information sessions. So the resource fair is where you can sign up for a phone account here in the US. It's where you can sign up for a bank account. It's where you can meet with different departments. University Health Services will be there to answer questions about health insurance, and different departments will be there to let you know about resources that are on campus. The info sessions will be about first year advising, answering questions about your classes your first year. We'll have an IA panel so they can just answer general questions that you have about being a student, about Notre Dame culture, and about the US culture, about classrooms, about residence halls. We'll have a conversation with the Notre Dame Police Department to talk about safety. University Health Services will do a whole presentation on health insurance. So lots of good information, both at the resource fair and at those info sessions. And then the evening of Thursday 19th is going to be dinner, where again, you'll pay for it, but we'll be organizing different groups to travel and go around campus and just off campus to enjoy dinner together, and some different activities that will prep you for football season and tailgating season, and then a bonfire at the end of the night to connect. So this is your first 2 days on campus. All of you will be in your residence halls on Friday morning when another 2,000 first-year students show up on campus. And there's lots of great energy. Many of our students, because you're already settled in your residence hall, will help students move in. And you're part of welcoming students and just kind of creating that good energy and good fun as students arrive. The rest of the students arrive on campus. Then welcome weekend really begins on Friday morning, August 20th. And you pivot from international student orientation and all international student community to all of the first year Notre Dame community. And your residence hall will have lots of activities. Hopefully you have read all of the emails that have come from your residence hall staff. And it just really shifts into welcome week, welcome weekend activities. We are looking to have one touch base during welcome weekend where our international student community will come back together, you and your families, if they're still here, and just connect, have some snacks, have some conversation, and just really enjoy each other, check in, see how your first day and a half is going. And they're on that Saturday, August 21st. We're going to skip some of the conversations that we had plans about cultural adjustment, because we'll have our international ambassadors have those conversations. But it's really important to just think about, what are you expecting in those first few days, and what are you hoping for? And just knowing that when you arrive, it will be a little different than what you expect. And you can ask lots of questions, you can talk about it, but just know you're going to have these wonderful, beautiful expectations, and wonderful, beautiful things are going to happen when you get on campus, but they may not be the same as you're expecting. So we really want to just encourage you to consider, what are you expecting about your arrival and your first few days on campus, and how can you just be open and be curious and be flexible when things maybe don't go exactly as you expect, especially with travel, especially with having to come to the U.S. Port of Entry, especially managing all of your documents. Things are not going to go exactly as you expect, and we just encourage you to right now commit to being curious, being open, and being flexible in the next couple of weeks and your first few weeks of campus. So what's next? At this point, we want to make sure, if you even have your Form I-20 or DS 2019 with you right now, you should have printed it off. The U.S. Port of Entry is going to expect that you have a paper copy of your I-20 and DS 2019. And so if you are an F1 student, you want to make sure that you have read through page 3 of your Form I-20. And if you are a J1 student, you want to make sure that you have read through page 2 of the DS 2019 form, because that's basically what you're signing off on, that you understand in that document. And so before you come to the Port of Entry, read through it with your parents so they understand some of the guidelines for your status, but do that before you start to travel. Cynthia said this, and I'll say it again, it's always important to repeat things. Read all the emails. You are getting a lot of emails from a lot of different offices, and there's not a rank of importance. They're all important for helping you set up and begin your time at the university really successfully. Our emails are going to be very focused on getting to campus and on your status. But if you have questions, always feel free to reach out to us about at issa@indy.edu with any questions. We just, again, think about your expectations for your arrival. It's so much excitement and so much amazing fun is ahead of you, and good study and good friends and good community. But really think about, what are you expecting, and then be open. If you haven't already responded to your international ambassador email, all of our international ambassadors emailed 350 students in June to welcome you to a Zoom call to meet with other students and ask questions. If you did not see that email, I would say go back and look for it, or let us know, and we'll have the IA send it again. These international ambassadors are our student leadership team, and they're really responsible for engaging you in the first couple of days of orientation and helping you get connected to life at the university and really feel a strong sense of belonging. So be sure to respond to that email and check in with those students. If you do not get it, you cannot find it in your email, let us know, and we'll make sure that you get that very soon, get it this week still. If you haven't reported your travel plans yet, please do that with the form that we emailed out last week. We'll send a reminder at the end of this week, but please be sure to submit that. Even if you don't have your travel plans, that actually gives us some really good information. You can always submit it again once your travel plans are finalized. So our office, the International Student Scholar Affairs Office, is here to help. It really is going to be your responsibility to manage your visa status. Our office is here to support you, is here to remind you, is here to help you manage that status and navigate some very tricky government rules. But it's ultimately your status. We cannot go to the consulate appointment with you for a visa. We cannot go to the Port of Entry with you. That is you and the Port of Entry officer, that CBP officer. And we can't go with your application on every step that you're here. It's really important that you understand the documents we've talked about today, that you understand what's going to happen at the Port of Entry so you're prepared. And we will just continue to give you information that will help you do that effectively. We do report to government agencies, but our whole team is part of the Notre Dame family. And so we're very excited to be welcoming you to that family and welcoming your parents and siblings to join the Notre Dame family, and look forward to seeing you very soon. I'm going to do one check-in and make sure that we don't have any remaining questions, but we'll give you also maybe 30 seconds, 45 seconds to go ahead and put your final questions into the Q&A so that we can address them before we get off. Merritt and Cynthia, if you saw anything that you feel like we should address, go ahead and please jump in.
There was one question asked about how the student can connect with other students arriving at an airport at the same time he or she was. How can they connect with those students?
Yeah, so that would be, that's a good question. One of the things that we can add to our report travel plans is just to put in a question that says, are you interested in connecting with other students? It's a little bit tricky in terms of liability for us to organize rideshare. So I would say if you can post on a Facebook group, the university Facebook group for first year students, and maybe indicate to us that you are looking to find a rideshare with somebody, you can email us and we'll do our best to connect you, but it's a little bit complicated around liability. The other thing is reaching out to your IA and asking them, or to your IA group, that group of students, do they know of anybody that's arriving at the same time? That would actually be a great place to start, is with your IA group, because most of y'all are coming about the same time.
Great.
Someone asked about the shuttles, and yes, we will get you to Target and we will get you back to campus. So no worries, we know you're gonna have a lot of things to carry, and we'll make sure that we get you there and get you back. It looks like somebody is asking about the 16th. So Merritt, thank you for responding to that. I've just, the Uber is generally about $200 from the Chicago O'Hare Airport to campus. And a lot of students use that option, especially our continuing students, because they've got the Wi-Fi, they've got the phone service set up. I'll give it one more minute for any questions. Yeah, and so Kirby says, I was here this summer, do I need an updated I-20 to travel back into the US? If you completed F1 registration, then you are probably in active status, but we are, I think that you might need a travel signature on your I-20. So if you could go ahead and email the issa@ndu.edu email, then we can be sure to answer, confirm that you have what you need to travel back. There's a question about the vaccination. So here is, it's really important to go to the right office for the right question. We can be a really great resource to tell you which office that is. Any questions about vaccinations need to go to University Health Services, and you can email that question to immunizations@nd.edu, and they'll answer that question about, does she need any further vaccinations? They have all of the information about that. So I would strongly recommend that you send that question to immunizations@nd.edu. So any questions about vaccination? If you are not going to be fully vaccinated, you'll want to reach out, like Cynthia said earlier, to immunizations@nd.edu to make plans. When you arrive, if you are not fully vaccinated, then the university policy is that you need to remain masked. But at this point, in this moment, we know things continue to change because we're not done with the global health crisis yet, and the Delta variant is complicating our plans. At this point, you will not need to do any testing once you arrive on campus, but you do want to be in conversation with University Health Services about making sure that you've got all the immunizations in place. Apart from Uber, there are not any best prepaid cab services. There are a few cab services in South Bend that might go out for $300. They would go and pick up your student at the airport and come back, but they're really limited. So we don't typically publicize those. But you really, Uber or Lyft are the best options for getting here. If the shuttle doesn't work, I should say. And again, because of the global health crisis is really why the shuttles are so limited this year. Going forward, those will be an option for your student or for you. when you're traveling at fall break, when you're traveling at the end of the semester, there will be more transportation options once you get here. Okay. I do not see any other questions. So I want to thank Merritt and Cynthia for joining us this morning and for our colleague Allie for organizing the webinar. We're really excited to welcome you all to campus very soon. Please reach out to us at issa@indy.edu if you have any questions. And but we'll see you all in just a couple of weeks here in the Notre Dame community. Have a wonderful evening or morning or wherever you are in your day.